Talking with George Gilder, author of Sexual Suicide. Robert, you say, may have picked a bad sentence or a good sentence rather than a bad one.
I have no right to do that, but if I have passion about anything, because my own profession as an actor is in the road to ruin and all that, but as a writer, I do love clear sentence. I mean, I really do agree with a lot of the things you say, but I do think it is cloaked with what I can only call pseudo sort of university sort of psychological, because I don't think most people can understand the sentences.
Well, most people do understand. Psychological. If you read a book like that to start with, I mean, if you're going to talk about sexual suicide intelligently or whatever, I haven't read it, but I mean, surely you're going to have to use words of three or four sentences.
One sentence, any page, and read it.
I think it's a tired task, that really. I mean, to go into the grammar of it all and say, well, this is a bad sentence.
Could I ask one question? Because I too have not read the book. What is your feeling? What do you think that you wrote in that book which provoked the demonstration that we had earlier?
Yeah,
is that a misunderstanding of the book, or
that's what I thought I was asking.
You've,
I can answer that if you like.
Okay. I mean,
well,
did you expect that sort of hostility?
I expected some of that hostility because I think the differences between the sexes are critical to sustaining families, which in turn are crucial to sustaining civilized society. And I think within a society of stable families, there's ample room for eccentrics like the people who climbed up on the stage this evening. But it's when a society disintegrates, when it's a society that disintegrates.
You're talking about minorities rather than eccentrics.
It's not eccentric,
What is the use of the word eccentrics? Now, that's exactly what I mean about the way you write.
Well,
now, how do you say those... now, what words are we going to use?
If you were making that point about that sentence, then I would agree.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make. If you read it, you don't read it.
Pick a better sentence.
No one else has ever done
I can't
this
pick
on this
a better
program,
eccentric.
I'm told. That's
What?
eccentric to have charged the stage. Isn't that true?
I resent that. You obviously haven't watched the show. The stage has been charged 3 times in my career. No,
Okay.
I'll have
That's
to...
an eccentric thing to do.
It's not eccentric, is it?
All right, well, okay.
Well, perhaps it is. I must confess, since you do seem unbearably put upon tonight, that I think Robert Shaw is absolutely right. I found your writing clotted as it can be, but I find a lot of it very interesting. And I find you clear by flashes, as when reading a book by a lightning storm or something. But it does seem to me that you lump everybody together, and that's a kind of unclarity that I can't abide. When you say, if I can find it here, the women's movement, the playboy chauvinists, the gay liberationists, the sexologists, the pornographers all tend to indulge and promote such a disintegration of our society. I know anyone who can put all those things in one sentence and find anything they have in common, I think is quite remarkable.
Well,
I commend you on that.
It's a preoccupation with sex in some form or another.
But I only did that because it's distracting.
It's like me. I had that.
No, but seriously, I'm sorry, Dudley, what'd you say?
No, I was just saying the thing in common seems to be the preoccupation with sex.
That's the lowest common denominator of sex. Sex outside of marriage, outside of the familial order.
Well, you say that's the lowest common denominator. One can't really agree with you there.
It can be the highest common denominator. For some of us, it can be the best thing that ever happened to us. I can't agree with all this.
Last night I met this penguin.
Yes, exactly.
No, I think another answer to Peter's question is what provoked the outbreak is that you do outburst. You do seem to take a rather fashionable today swipe at homosexuals as an evil sort of thing that is really a sickness, which is a kind of an old-fashioned idea. And you may be right and you may be wrong, but I think Robert is probably right that you're probably right part of the time and not all the time. But you do talk in absolutes. All homosexuals are ill. No, all lesbians are eccentrics. You do tend to do that, don't you, George?
Well, I also say that the worst perversion occasioned by homosexuality is the police process of harassment and persecution.
But you do also say that women should be paid less, and I don't want to
I do not say women should be paid less.
You say that if they are paid less, that it will, in a sense, keep the male role in a healthy balance.
No, I say men have to have some measure of economic superiority if families are to be sustained. And this is because the male role of provider in every society, not exclusively American society, is crucial to connecting men to families. And whenever the male role of provider collapses, and it happens to some extent in the ghetto and in the counterculture, the men tend to leave the women with the children. And I think this is...
biography at all? I mean,
No, it's not. It's a fact. And it's a demonstrable fact.
And we have a message after this question. I mean, a message. Don't you say something like, single men create a problem in our society and that men commit more crimes and more violence, and you do say something like, women ought to be paid less, all mixed up in there, or at least that there's a benefit that comes from women being paid less. Maybe if we paid women more, they would be glad to shoulder their part of the burden of violence and crime, or what?
No, single
get
men are the
lost.
major problem in almost every society,
You're a single man, aren't
yes,
you?
I am. And
Irrelevant?
Look at the disruption I'm causing. But do you realize single men cannot operate very well because they are not connected to the future through children. They're not
Don't you
connected
mean
to
some
families.
single men?
No,
that's the
in
point.
general,
What do you mean by operate?
as a general rule, it's
More
the
than
fact.
50%?
No.
Well,
but
how do you say all? How many do you
I'll
mean
tell
when
you.
you say all?
Well-
Some, most, 90%, less than 10?
Well, single men, for example, make less money than single women. Single men make only...
Beg your pardon?
That's
What?
true.
I beg your pardon?
No, single men make
not true in
less
England,
money
is it?
than single women. It's
What
a
at?
fact.
It's a fact.
In general.
What are the... I mean,
Everywhere.
statistics lie.
Everywhere. Single men
anyone believes that, they-
also only make a little more than half as much money as married men of the same age and qualifications. So it's a little bit more than half.
It's about
Single
as good
men
a
are
generalization
21
as most
times-
single men aren't married.
That's true.
Now that I
Makes
go along
no
with.
sense at all.
That single men make only half as much as married
As
men
comparable
of the
single-
same age and qualifications. That's a fact.
What do you
Well,
do?
we
Like-
listen, we
single-
seem to have gotten a very strange
No, but this is
situation
important.
on this program.
This is
We have,
important
yes.
because
Yeah.
my main contention is that it's through marriage and family that men in general are socialized, that the aggressiveness of men is channeled into constructive purposes. And,
Well, let me say this. You do, yes, that is roughly what the book is about, if I can oversimplify it, that the family structure is a desirable thing as opposed to maybe that list of things I read before, and that probably for most people, it probably in some sense is. My only remark is there needs no ghost come from the grave, my lord, to tell us this.
Okay.
To quote the bard.
But
That's kind of an old idea, isn't it?
All right. But I go beyond that to emphasize that sexual differences are crucial to love and family, and those
Sexual
people,
differences, and those who would erase them.
right, contribute to a breakdown of family, and I think that's demonstrable, and I
Yeah.
think it's those people have in common a tendency to disparage or deny sexual differences, and if, for example,
But then you don't make the sweeping generalization, for example, then that there are no healthy homosexuals, that there are no adjusted pornographers, that there might be an exception
No,
somewhere.
I'm talking about the principles that govern social life in general. And I think if in a stable society, again, you can afford pluralism. It's in a society that's disintegrating that you give rise to movements that tend to be oppressive and authoritarian. And I think that's why it's crucial to maintain the family order and maintain marriage as the crucial institution of civilized society.
Well, that's all well and good. Do we have any time left? I must ask you, this has probably been an unusual experience for you here. There's a great deal of tension here. I don't know if it's coming over in the screen or not. Do you feel you've been unfairly
Well, it
had here?
started because...
Yeah, I think I've been unfairly-
It started because Peter,
No, wait,
who is
don't wait.
English,
No, seriously, folks. Do you feel you've been hacked apart?
No, I just think I don't like this clotted prose style stuff. That's
You don't like
I'm vain about my prose style, so.
Well, I'm vain about my frankness. I don't think it's very good. But I'm sorry about that. In your favor, I will say that Anatole Broyard, the respected reviewer of the New York Times, thought your book was terrific. I don't happen to, but there you have it. But the ideas, I think, are many of them worth talking about. And I think Robert's right that you have a kind of sociologist's way of putting
I'm
things, which is
certainly
kind of
not
hard
a
to read hard for the layman. There are good sociologists too, aren't there? Yes. Where are we?
I'd just like to say one thing. I think Bob was trying to make the point that the hostility began at the beginning of the program with me, with what seemed like an apparent attack on him.
And it's moved from chair to chair.
And it moved all around the chair.
I know. Yes, we're all going...
It's not intended as particularly hostile. I just knew his reputation as being somebody who enjoyed an argument, and so I enjoy an argument, so I thought I'd start in with it. That's all.
I think there's a more important thing than that, and I really mean it quite seriously, because Peter and I have never met actually before, though he says we have, but we will again. We will again, so that'd be all right, but because we're English. But I'm really quite serious. I really mean, and I can only repeat for about the 15th time,
And fast.
and fast, that sentences to be understood by most of us have to be simple and direct and without all those bloody adjectives. I don't understand half the sentences. I say it again.
Do you mind an actor criticizing your writing?
Yeah, I certainly would. I certainly have criticized actors, and so I suppose.
You know that he's also a writer, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I was trying to lead you into a silly trap. We'll be right back after this message.